In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a Class 1 double braid splice in Sterling Tendril Rope. I'm going to pretty much follow the instructions that are on the Sterling website, so that's another good source if you want to learn how to do this splice. The method that you use to splice tendril is virtually identical to the method that you use for splicing tachyon rope. Both of these ropes have three parts. They have an outer cover, and then they have a core and an inner core. And that requires a couple of extra steps that you need to follow. But both these ropes are fairly easy to splice if you just follow a few basic rules, and I'll show you those in the video. The tools you're going to need to do this splice are a felt tip marker, a 7/16" tubular fid, an alligator clip, an 18-inch long wire fid like this right here, and I bend the end so that I can actually pull on it. Marlinspike, a pair of needle nose pliers, scissors, roll of tape, pocket knife or some kind of a knife, a carabiner, and a measuring tape. And it also helps to have a needle and thread. I use that to put the marks on the rope. Alright, so the first step in doing this splice is to lay out your marks on the rope. And the first mark is going to be one tubular fid length up the rope from the end of the rope. And that's going to be right here, and that's mark R. And from mark R, you're going to make the other side of your eye. And in this case, I know that for Sterling Tendril and for tachyon, I need to measure up to make that eye and make a tight eye. I'm going to measure up 3.5 inches, okay, from mark R. So we're going to measure up right there to 3.5 inches. All right. Now normally I wouldn't make these big black marks on my rope. I would make the marks with a piece of thread like this right here. I would just run the thread through the cover of the rope right there, pull it on through and cut that off, and just leave that little piece of thread in there temporarily. And then when I'm all done, I can just pull that out so that I don't leave any marks on my rope. But for the video, I'm going to use black marks so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, now from mark X right here, we're going to measure up one long fid and make mark Z up here. Okay, a long fid. If you look at your fid, you'll see that from the angled end of the fid here to this little double line right here is one short fid. Okay, and then from the pointed end of the fid back to that double line right there is one long fid. Okay, so we've got a long fid, a short fid, and a full fid. So from mark X here, we're going to measure up one long fid and make mark Z. Okay, so that will be right there. All right, now we're going to go back down here to mark R, and we're going to count 8 strands towards the end of the rope and make mark T. Okay, so from mark R right here, we're just going to start counting. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so right there, we're going to make a mark all the way around the rope, and that is going to be mark T. Then on the rest of the tail here, we're going to do our layout marks for the taper on the cover that we'll do later. To do that, we're going to start counting from mark T towards the end of the rope. We're going to count 4 strands, 1, 2, 3, 4, and mark that pair of strands right there. Then we're going to count 6 strands, 6, and mark that pair right there. And we're going to keep alternating 4 and 6 strands, marking the pairs to remove for our taper later. So now we've got 4 and then 6. Now we'll go 4 and 6. Okay, we're going to mark a total of 6 pairs. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So those 6 pairs we're going to remove later on to do our taper. Okay, now that we have all these marks on the rope, we need to measure back up the rope from mark Z here, 5 fid lengths, and tie a knot in our rope so that the core and the cover won't move while we're doing our splice. All right, so there's mark Z. So we're just going to measure up 5 fid lengths from there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then just above that, we're going to tie an alpine butterfly here. This is just to keep the rope, the core and the cover from moving, okay, while we're doing our splice. All right, so now we've got that. We're going to go back down the rope here to mark X right here, and we're going to remove the core from the cover. To remove the core from inside the cover, you take your marlin spike and you slide it in under the cover strands like that, okay, until you're inside, and then you just snag the core with the tip of your marlin spike and twist it around sideways like that, wedge it against your stomach, and then you can actually pry up while you at the same time push those cover strands aside. You got to push them out of the way. You can see the core is coming through right there. Just keep pushing on those cover strands as you pry up on the core, and it'll start to come out of there. At the same time, you kind of milk the core and the cover, or the core strands up through there. Just keep pushing down on those cover strands like that as the core comes through, and occasionally you can dig a little deeper with your marlin spike if you need a deeper purchase. Just push those cover strands back and away. So just keep prying and pushing the cover strands back out of the way, and you can see now that there's your core, okay? Once you've got it coming out like that, then you can just pull it out until the end is all the way out, okay? Okay, now that we've got the core pulled out of the cover here, we'll pull it out a ways like that. Okay, then we need to equalize the core and the cover again. So we're going to take this and we're going to put it over our cleat right here and just strip the slack out of the cover, just pulling it all the way down like that. Do it a couple of times. Just get all the slack out of that cover so that now you have your core and your cover equalized, okay? Okay, now we need to do our marks on our core here. Okay, the first mark is right here where the core exits the cover. I'm just going to make a black mark right there. That's mark number 1. All right, then we're going to take our alligator clip and we're going to put it on the end here just to keep this from unraveling temporarily. And then we're going to pull the core out of the cover like that. And we're going to take our tubular fid and we're going to make mark 2 on the core. And mark 2 is going to be one short fid up the core from mark 1. And just make that mark all the way around the core, or the core. Okay, then we're going to go from mark 2 here, we're going to go one fid plus a short fid up the rope and make mark 3. Okay. Okay, so now we have our 3 marks on our core. We have mark 1, mark 2, and mark 3. We're going to take our alligator clip off here temporarily, and right here between marks 2 and 3 we're going to open up the core, peek through there and look for that inner core, those blue strands or purple strands that are on the inside of the core. And we're going to pull those out right there, about halfway between marks 2 and 3. So we're just going to reach in there, get a hold of them with our marlin spike, and gently pull them out, being careful not to snag any of the white core strands. Okay. There are 5 of these inner core strands. Just make sure you pull them all out of there like that. Okay. And then about 6 inches out here, we're going to just tie a knot in those strands to hold them all together temporarily, like that. And you can cut off the excess because you're not going to need it. Okay. All right. So now that we've got the blue strands extracted right there, we're going to go back down here to the end of our core, and we're going to put a bit of a taper on the end of our core. The next step now is to bury the core inside the cover, but before we do that, we need to reduce the volume or taper the end here a little bit so that it will pull through, otherwise it'll be too tight. So we're going to, right here where we've put our alligator clip on, we're going to start removing a few of these strands from the end of the core. We'll just pull out about 6 strands or so. You don't need to worry too much about which ones, just start grabbing a few of them. Kind of work your way around the rope. Okay, there's 4, and let's take another one. This is not too critical here. The directions on the Sterling site say 4, but a few more won't hurt. So anyway, so there we have those strands removed, and we're just going to cut them off right there where they come out. Like that. Okay, now we're going to take the end of the core here, and we're going to bury it inside the cover from mark T down here all the way through and out over here at mark Z. To do that, we just pull on the core to bunch up the cover right here. Okay, and then we're going to take our wire fid, and over here at mark Z, we're going to insert the wire fid in, run it all the way through here and out and over there at mark T. When we do that, we want to make sure that we put the fid in on the right side of the rope. So we're going to come through from the back side here, run it along over here, and then bring it out right over here. Okay. All right. So we'll just put our wire fid in between the cover strands, run it through there. Be real careful not to catch it in the core strands. Run it on down through. Okay. And then we're going to bring it out over here so that we come out right here on the same side as our core strands, so when they go back in, the cover and the core won't be twisted relative to each other. Okay, so we just bring it out right there at mark T. Okay, like that. Then we're going to take these core strands and capture them in the wire fid. Like that, and just capture about 1.5 inches or so of those core strands. Okay, then you're going to pull that back in like that and pull until those core strands go inside the cover. Okay, so just start milking the cover down. You'll see the core strands go in like that. And just keep milking them along, pulling on your wire fid. Okay. Just keep milking things. Occasionally pull this to bunch up the cover. That'll allow your core to move through there better. Okay. And if you watch over here, right here, you'll see pretty quick that core is going to start to pop through there. We'll just keep pulling. You can see right now the core starting to come through there. So just keep milking that along, and there's the core popping out. Okay. Just keep pulling until it comes out like that. Then you can grab a hold of these with your hand and just milk that through, and see now you've got the core all the way through there. So now we got to go down here and do the taper on our cover strands before we insert them into the core. Okay, so that's the next step, is to those cover strands that we marked earlier, we're going to pull those out of there now. Before we do that, we have to take the tape off the end of the rope here so that those cover strands can pull out of there. Okay, so we're just going to go back here, and with our marlin spike, we're going to start pulling those cover strands out of there. Be careful to pull away from the end of the rope so that if there's any bunching that happens, it happens over here as opposed to on the upstream side. So we're going to pull all 6 pairs that we marked earlier out of there. All right, so now I've got, you see there, I've got all 6 pairs marked and ready to be cut off. Okay, to do that, we just take our scissors here and cut those off where they emerge from the rope. Okay, now we're going to take the end of the cover strands here, and we're just right at the end, we're going to put a little bit of tape just to bring that to a sharp point. Doesn't have to be a whole lot, just make a little pointed end like that. Okay, then we're going to take that and insert it into our tubular fid like that right there, and then we're going to take some more tape and tape that on there so that it won't come off. All right. So now we're ready to insert the tubular fid in here at mark 2, run it all the way through and out over here at mark 3. All right. And again, we want to make sure that we do that so that we don't twist the core and the cover relative to each other. So this wants to go in right here on this side. Go between strands, being careful not to go out through the side and catch any of the core strands. So just kind of bunch it up and push it through like that, milking this over the top of your fid. Okay, so right there, she's coming on through, and just pull that while you milk those core strands through until your cover strands come on through there. All right, then you can take your tape off here and remove your fid. And just leave this tape on the cover strands temporarily. Okay, so now we got to go back here, and right where the core and the cover are going into each other, we have to pull that crossover tight. Okay, so we're going to go up here and we're going to pull on the core strands here, and as we do that, you'll see that that crossover right there will pull down in there. See that right there, how it's pulling down in tight? Just pull nice and hard on that, then go back over here to the cover strands and pull on those strands, holding on to the crossover right here while you're doing that. Okay, So pull on both sides until it comes down, until that crossover is nice and snug like that right there. Okay. Doesn't have to be super tight, but it should be nice and snug. Okay, so there we have our crossover formed. And we're ready to bury these cover strands and these inner core strands. Okay, so before we do that, we'll just take our tape off here, off of our cover strands. And we'll pull those cover strands out of there about 5-6 inches and pull them apart here a little bit. Like that. And then we're just going to taper those cover strands. Starting back here about 5 inches towards the tip. You just want it to taper out to a fine point like that. Okay? So there's the taper on our cover strands, and then we need to go over here and also taper these so that when they pull inside they lay nice and smooth in there. So to do that, we're just going to pull on these blue strands until you'll see the core will kind of bunch up here. Just pull on it like that until the whole thing, you'll see it kind of bunch up. Like that. Okay, just pull those tight, and then we're going to taper the ends of these 5 inner core strands. We'll just taper them about 1 inch intervals. So we'll go about 1, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So now when we pull on all this and pull the slack out of that, these core strands, all those strands will bury if you watch on both sides. Okay. So we're just going to hold on to our crossover there and milk that cover back that way till all those strands bury. There's a little bit of a strand sticking out there. We'll cut off. Okay. All right, so now we've got all of those core and cover strands buried. We've got our crossover here. And we're almost ready to do our final bury, except that we have to cut these strands off right here. To do that, we hold on to the crossover and milk all the slack out of those cover strands back towards where this core exits the rope up here at mark Z. So just get all the slack milked out of there like that, okay? And you're going to go up here, grab your felt tip marker, and mark that right there where that core comes out of the cover, and then just pull that out like that. Okay, pull as hard as you can until you pull 3 or 4 inches of core out of there. Just pull it hard. Okay, then you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut that off just shy of that black mark right there, and then you're going to flare these strands out. Just unravel the end here like that, and then for the last 3 inches roughly, you're going to just taper that with your scissors. So you're just going to kind of flare them out like that and cut that at an angle towards the end. Okay. It should taper down to a nice smooth point. And pretty good. Not quite there yet. Okay. That's pretty good. All right. Now we're ready to do our final bury. To do that, we'll move over to our cleat so we can pull on it. Okay, so now we're ready to do our bury. We just take the Alpine Butterfly here, hook it over our cleat, and back away like this. Okay, we're going to hold on to our crossover right here as we pull, and as we do that, you'll see these strands right here will bury inside the rope. Okay. All right, so just holding onto our crossover, we're just going to start pulling, and you'll see these strands will just go inside, they'll disappear inside the rope. Haven't got quite all the slack pulled out there. There we go. Okay. Okay, so you see now those strands buried, okay? And now we're going to do the rest of the barrier. So we're going to hold on to our crossover, and we're just going to walk down the rope and grab some slack on the cover and milk it in this direction. While at the same, okay, now you'll see the core will start to bury inside the cover, just like that, okay? So just continue to hold on to the crossover, milk the cover, keeping tension on both sides now. It's just berries, okay? You want to keep tension on both sides, both this side and that side, so that they don't bunch up on you. There's our crossover, okay? And just keep your hold on the crossover. Just keep milking the core over the cover over the core. Okay. Now you're going to grab your carabiner here and put it in there so that you can maintain tension. Okay. Now we're just going to keep milking the core over the cover, or the cover over the core. Okay. Like that. Okay. And when it starts getting tight like this, you can just go up here and work on this. Just massage it a little bit. That'll loosen up those strands so that they can slide over each other, okay? So just keep milking it like that. Go down and grab more slack on the cover and milk it towards the end here. And right at the end, just pull hard like that. And you'll see that kind of, see how that's sliding over those core strands? Just kind of milk it a little bit here. Just massage the rope to get those strands loosened up, okay? And you can just let go of that temporarily. Go down here and just grab the core or the cover. Get that slack to build up right here at the end, and then keeping tension on this, just pull on those cover strands and you'll see they're sliding over the core. Massage it some more. This is where you got to be patient. It just takes a lot of massaging and elbow grease. Okay. Okay. Grab our cover and just milk it on down. Pull real hard here, and then right at the end, just pull hard. Okay, we're almost over the crossover. Okay, a little more. What you find is that once that crossover disappears inside there, it'll usually slide a little easier. Alright, so now the crossover is disappearing inside. Another thing you need to do once in a while is take this, go down to your cleat here, and put this end of the rope over the cleat and pull on it. That'll get this bunching out of here. You'll feel it let loose. See how that let loose? It was way bunched up. And once you do that, It'll let your rope slide better. All right. And we're going to stick our carabiner in there again, push it through real hard to form the eye, and then pull on it to get all this bunching out of here. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so there's our finished splice. It still needs to be lock stitched before it's done, but that is a tight eye class 1 double braid eye splice in tendril rope.